सॉरी स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं हुआ. लास्ट आपने कहाँ तक सुना था?
Extension is not a primary quality.
So he asked Mr. Locke that you said कि extension is primary quality. यही बोला था Locke ने, and color is secondary quality. But he asks that even the secondary quality or even the primary quality like extension depends on the secondary quality. For example, can you see extension without color? If there is no color, can you observe the extension? If table does not extend in space and time, if table does not have color, can you see its extension in space and time? You cannot, no? So how can we say that even extension or the primary qualities are independently existing? We cannot prove that. Also, he has said that even size depends on from where do we perceive a thing. If a ship is far, it looks a bit smaller, and when it is nearer, it looks bigger. So there is no point of accepting primary qualities as independent. Further, he also rejected the correspondence theory of truth, which John Locke gave. He said that how can... One second. I think
the screen is not visible.
Screen is not visible?
No, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Now it is visible, sir.
सर हैंग कर रहा है स्क्रीन.
Sorry. Now it is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Was I audible?
Sir, yes, now you are audible.
No, sir.
Okay. I was discussing the point regarding correspondence theory of truth. Were you able to hear that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So let's get to the key points of Berkeley. Existence is tied to perception. Perception are the only reality because we cannot prove anything apart from the perception. How can one prove that external objects exist? So Locke will say that we can prove external objects exist because we receive primary quality ka sensation from object, or we receive some sort of sensation from the object. But Berkeley will say that sensation might also be creation of the mind. There is no reason to prove that there is something outside of the mind which proves that external objects exist. Only thing that we can prove is perceptions exist. So he uses the Occam-Razor principle here. Occam-Razor principle. So you can also write this, that Berkeley removes the primary quality with razor, because there is no need to accept the primary qualities because they do not prove themselves that they exist independently. So he uses Occam-Razor principle also. Occam-Razor principle says that if you have to choose between two assumptions, choose the one which is the simplest and put razor on the unnecessary things so as to make the argument simple. He rejects material substance. With regard to idea and impression, he says that all ideas are perception. Ideas exist only in mind. There is no distinction between primary and secondary quality. So now we have seen the difference. Now comes David Hume. Please let me know if my screen is not visible at any moment. His view is called empirical skepticism. What does this say? That knowledge is limited to impressions and ideas. We cannot know anything apart from this impression and ideas. There is another term which is used here. His empirical skepticism is also called as phenomenalism. You can use this term, phenomenalism. That the only thing that we can sure of is of phenomena. That is, which is being perceived. We cannot know, we cannot transcend the perceivable. Okay? This was also accepted by Kant later. Kant also accepted this, that our knowledge is limited to phenomena. What were the key points? Impressions are vivid, ideas are faint copy. No rational basis for causation of or the self. Knowledge is contingent and probabilistic. Okay. Regarding impression, he says that these are directly sensory experiences. Ideas are less vivid copies of impressions. Ideas and impression come from the content of mind. Criticisms. Now see, this is the criticism of John Locke. A comparative question can be asked regarding Locke and Leibniz. Locke और Leibniz पे क्वेश्चन आ सकता है regarding the debate on innate ideas. Locke has rejected innate ideas by saying that if innate ideas were innate, then everyone should be aware of it. But Leibniz says that that mind has different levels, that is conscious, subconscious and unconscious. So if the innate idea is not at the conscious level, it might be at the subconscious level or the unconscious level. So how can you say that there are no innate ideas at all? भाई innate idea हो सकता है conscious level पे नहीं है अभी, but subconscious level पे हो. And whenever there is a favorable condition, it comes to the conscious level. So that's why Leibniz says that Locke has overlooked the innate ideas by saying that if ideas were innate, everyone should be aware of it. No, it is not necessary. Someone's innate ideas are at conscious level, someone's might be at subconscious level. Did you understand this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Berkeley says that he fails to explain the complex abstract ideas because he uses abstraction, which is rationality. Empiricism does not. If you are a true empiricist, you cannot do abstraction. But John Locke does a lot of abstraction. So Berkeley criticizes this. Hume also says that there are empirical limits on abstract reasoning. You cannot be an empiricist and do abstract reasoning at the same time. So, there is a term which is used. Locke is called an inconsistent empiricist. Inconsistent empiricism. Locke's empiricism is inconsistent empiricism. Then Berkeley's empiricism is called as halfway.
सर स्क्रीन हैंग कर गई है.
Let me show it again. So Berkeley's empiricism is called as halfway empiricism.
I can't see the screen, sir.
Oh. Let me show it.
Yes, sir.
सर अनेबल टू
सर
हेयर.
आवाज नहीं.
आवाज नहीं आ रही सर.
Now I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
I'm saying that Locke is called inconsistent empiricist because he deviated a lot, and then came Berkeley. He also accepted things like self, God. So he is called halfway empiricist. But Hume is a consistent, and often he is also called a radical empiricist. Although the term radical empiricism is associated with Quine, but Hume was also a radical empiricist in many sense. Okay. So even when you start, let's say there is a question on empiricism, you can say that the journey of empiricism, which started with inconsistent empiricism of Locke, proceeded further with halfway empiricism of Berkeley, found its logical culmination in the consistent empiricism of David Hume. If there is a question on David Hume, you can start like this. Will that be fine? It will be a good introduction. That he is a consistent empiricist, he is an honest empiricist, he does not accept anything which is beyond perception. Okay, let's see the criticism of
जो बर्कले का क्रिटिसिज्म है लॉक का, फेल्स टू एक्सप्लेन कॉम्प्लेक्स एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडियाज. तो सर ये एक बार थोड़ा सा एक्सप्लेन करिएगा.
he says that कि Berkeley says that जो लॉक है, लॉक का जो कंसेप्ट है आइडियाज का, it does not explain the abstract ideas, the complex abstract ideas. And further he also says that if you are a honest empiricist, you must not accept rationality, or you must not use rationality in order to explain the complex abstract ideas. So first of all, Locke could not explain abstract ideas by the way of empiricism, but he tried to use some rationality by saying that substance is a supposed support of quality. But what is supposed? You are supposing it, means you are using rationality. You got it?
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
that's why Berkeley criticized it. And criticism on Berkeley, that Berkeley's sense is also the common sense affirms that physical reality exists, but Berkeley does not accept it. Please write the name of Samuel Johnson. Whenever there is a question on Berkeley, use Samuel Johnson in the criticism, because they were together in that university where Berkeley was a professor of philosophy. Samuel was also there, and there was some sort of a discussion and debate between Samuel Johnson and Berkeley. So the examiner would be knowing that you have used Samuel Johnson means you know from where Berkeley is coming. Please use this name. Perception varies individually. This is also true. My perception would be different. Your perception would be different. How can we say that perception is the reality? That perception is true. So Thomas Reid has said this. Berkeley's view also leads to solipsism, the isolation of mind, as happened in Descartes. Descartes की philosophy में भी same चीज हुई थी. That he said that I think therefore I am. So only thing that can be proved that the thinking thing can be proved. But then how the other minds can be proved? Solipsism is also called the problem of other minds. It is called the problem of other mind. That we are sure that our minds, we are sure of what is going in our mind. But how do we know other minds? Those who believe in external reality, they can say that because external objects exist, so therefore we believe in them. But who believe only in the reality of mind, for them there is a real problem of solipsism. The problem of knowing the other mind. How do we know that other minds exist apart from it, apart from our mind? Because it might be the case that everything is going in our mind. That is the issue here also, solipsism. Criticism for Hume. Radical empiricism leads to radical empiricism. Skepticism.
Sir, before we move on to Hume, I have a small doubt with respect to Berkeley.
Yeah, please say.
Sir, I have sent a photo in the group. Can you see?
You've sent a photo.
I said just a minute, it's loading.
Where have you sent a photo?
No, Super 20. It is loading, sir.
Okay.
I'm sending it now.
Okay.
So it is from this Patanjali book. I didn't understand what are these criticisms of R.B. Perry.
R.B. Perry, an American neuralist, says that Berkeley has committed three mistakes as fallacies: fallacy of egocentric predicament, fallacy of exclusive particularity, fallacy of definition by initial predication. Okay, I'll see and reply on this. I think egocentric predicament only means this solipsism wala part. But I'll shortly see this and explain what is in the details. Let me see the details of it.
Okay.
But somewhat it relates to the solipsism wala problem. So Hume, radical skepticism, undermines the scientific certainty, as Kant said, that if we believe in the work of Hume, then scientific certainty comes into question. We cannot believe anything that anything is true. Scientific knowledge will come into question. Hume's view contradicts the lived experience of continuity said by Thomas Reid. Then comes the metaphysics. Now see, Locke accepted three substances, but often you will find the term substance dualism with respect to Locke. So please remember both the things. If they ask you that explain the categorization of substance as per Locke, then you will talk about three substances. He accepted God, he accepted soul, and he also accepted matter. Right? He accepted all three of them. I'll give a question in our intensive writing on how he explained the concept of soul and God. So it is your task to see how he explained soul and God. I will ask a question related to this in intensive writing. Please look at this, because a question related to personal identity was also asked in a few years back. So what was and other times the term substance dualism is also used, that he accepted mind and matter as distinct entities. So please remember that substance dualism can be used by examiner with respect to Locke. So please don't get confused. Substance dualism is also used in context of Descartes in some books. So please don't get confused there also. Descartes accepted mind and matter. Locke also accepted mind and matter. So that's why they sometimes call it substance dualism. This was in his book, Essay Concerning Human Understanding. Key points were, again, primary qualities and secondary qualities prove the existence of matter. Interaction between mind and matter, I have already explained to you that sensation and reflection makes the interaction between mind and matter possible. He has also given the empirical evidence for substance dualism. For matter, he says that matter is supposed support of qualities right, and primary qualities are those which are independently existing. So we had to accept matter exists. He accepted mind also, because he says that without mind we cannot know the sensations. Sensations can make sense only when the mind reacts to it, when the mind acts upon it. Then only we know that, okay, ice is cold. Because if we do only touch ice, there is a sensation of coldness. But we do not know that ice is equal to cold. So mind also is proved by empirical evidence as per Locke, although we can always give a criticism. Berkeley's immaterialism, metaphysics also, immaterialism. He accepts two realities, soul and God. Locke accepts three, Berkeley accepts two. And Hume does not accept any. So it is like 3, 3, 2, 0. The equation is 3, 2, 0. To be is to be perceived. Perception are the only reality. Material objects are unnecessary. Perception are the basis of existence, he says. Hume talks about bundle theory. Objects are collections of perceptions. And every perception is separate, independent. So sometimes a term called atomistic sensationalism is also used. Atomistic sensationalism is also used in context of David Hume. Please note this term, because every sensation is atomistic, separate, simple, and independently existing. There is no permanent self. Objects are bundle of sensory perceptions, experiences. Identity is a collection of related perceptions. Then comes the criticism wala part. Problem of interaction. How do mind and matter react? The same problem with Descartes, but he tried to explain, but the solution was not very logical. Over-reliance on sensory data, says Berkeley, inconsistent with modern physics. Why? Because modern physics does not accept the distinction of primary and secondary quality. Modern physics does not inconsistent with modern physics. I have explained to you that primary quality, secondary quality distinction is not accepted. The mind-body interaction is also not accepted in the modern physics, so that is gone. With regard to Berkeley, I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Again, Johnson will come. Samuel Johnson denies objective reality, so that is criticism of Berkeley. There was also an incident where Johnson even threw a stone at Berkeley, and when Berkeley felt the pain, Johnson said, I threw an idea on you. Why do you feel the pain now? So there was this incident. So that's why Johnson is often associated with, and his name is often mentioned with Berkeley. Leads to solipsism, overlooks shared experiences, as Kant has said, because there is a problem of other mind. How do we know that other minds are also perceiving the same thing? So shared experiences are overlooked here. Then comes the your David Hume. The criticism of David Hume is it cannot explain the unity of objects. Unity of objects, कल मैंने बताया था ना, unity of objects भी हो या unity of perception presupposes unity of self. Unity of self is needed. But if self itself is a bundle, then the objects, the perception, their unity cannot be. Please use Kant in David Hume whenever there is a question related to either causation or the self wala part. Subjective perception varies. The problem exists with him also, as said by Thomas Reid. Difficulty in explaining the continuity of identity. Butler says this. Then comes the causation theory. Very important. Causation as explained by Berkeley, Locke, and Hume. Hume talks about empirical cause and effect. Cause is inferred from the observation. I touch ice, it feels cold. I infer that ice is equal to cold, or ice causes coldness. So through observation, I infer about the cause. We observe consistent pattern. Whenever I touch ice, it feels cold. So I say that, okay, ice causes cold. Inductive reasoning, I sense particularize, and then I make a general rule that whenever you touch ice, it will feel cold. Sensory evidence of causality that we have explained to you. समझ में आया ना ये वाला कि कैसे बता रहा है वो causation को?
हाँ सर.
Yes, sir.
Then regularity in perception, says Berkeley. The causation explained by regularity in perception, because Berkeley believes in self. He believes in self, so he will believe in regularity of perception. Causation for
Sir, you are not audible.
So we cannot know things outside. Right? Things outside are not known. What is known is mind and its perceptions. So causation for him is also a mental construct. ये question आ सकता है. You see, we had anticipated कि भाई Locke में David Hume के अंदर वो personal identity पूछेंगे, but they had asked personal identity in Locke also. So हमको लगता है कि causation सिर्फ और सिर्फ डेविड ह्यूम में पूछा जाएगा, but causation can be asked in Locke also, Berkeley also, and obviously Hume तो important है ही. So remember their causation theory. Key points: empirical basis for causation. He also says empirical means that we perceive it. That's why we say that it is caused. Although the empirical basis is not the external basis for him. We do not perceive the things outside. We only perceive the ideas in mind. So empirical basis for Berkeley is the perception of those ideas, not the perception of external objects, because for him external objects do not exist. Mental projection of causation, perception are basic of understanding of causality, as I have already explained. कि perception होता है भाई ideas का, उससे causality पता लगती है हमको. Very important is our David Hume. Constant conjunction. There is no necessary connection, only a habit. Two things exist, two things happen, one thing is happening, other thing is happening. There is a constant conjunction, it is happening constantly. So our mind associates that, okay, there is a necessary connection, but there is no necessary connection between thing A and thing B. Only repeated associations. There are only repeated associations from the basis of causation. Can anyone explain to me with example? कोई example बता सकता है? What example did David Hume give for causation? For
That
saying that
fire is hot.
Yes. Yes. So what did he say about fire?
So we have a association that fire will be hot generally, but what if from tomorrow it starts being cold? There is no causal necessity.
There is no causal necessity. We cannot know a priori that fire burns. We cannot know a priori. Cannot know a priori. So how can we say that there is a necessary connection? The laws of nature may change. Even our understanding of law of nature might be limited. So we can never say that there is a necessary connection between cause and effect. What we can say is there is constant conjunction. If we are an honest empiricist, we can only accept constant conjunction. Honest empiricist will never accept that necessary connection between cause and effect, because necessity is not observed. Necessity is beyond perception. Necessity is not perceived. So cause and effect are linked by habit. There is no logical necessity in causation. What is criticism of John Locke? John Locke said that he gave empirical cause and effect theory. Problem of induction exists. What is this problem of induction? That from particular we go to the general rule. From particular we observe that this swan is white, swan 1 is white, swan 2 is white, swan 3 is white, and we say that okay, all swans are white. But then there was a black swan event where a black swan was seen. So this is a genuine problem in induction. We can never be sure of. The same problem was with Hume also, and here this is also a problem of induction, that we can never be sure of what we from the particular. If we go to the general, we can never be sure that the general rule is always applicable. There might be exception to it also. Does not explain unobservable causes. Kant says that it does not explain unobservable causes. What are unobservable causes here? See, mind is active. Even Locke accepts that mind is quite active. So there might be, even the mind can be a cause of which is not being observed. Mind can also be a cause, na? Why thing is perceived the way it is. कोई चीज कैसी क्यों लग रही है, इसका रीजन माइंड भी तो हो सकता है कि माइंड हैज मोल्डेड और शेप्ड और सुपर इम्पोज सर्टेन थिंग्स ऑन इट. So unobservable causes like mind is not explained by John Locke. So that is a problem. He overlooks mental causation. Thus, Berkeley has said that mind can, same thing, mind could have been causing things. Mind could have been superimposing certain things. But that has not been explained by Locke. So that is a criticism. No objective causal link, says David Hume. Even in Berkeley, there is no objective causal link, just like Hume. Subjective experiences varies, says Reed. If we accept Berkeley's view, then we cannot predict new phenomena, says Karl Popper. Why we cannot predict new phenomena? Because everything is a mental construct. Everything is a mental construct. There is no objective causal link. So nothing can be predicted. The mental constructs may change. Even Berkeley says that there is a higher mind which is making me see all these things, or there is a higher mind which is running everything that is we are seeing. So we can never perceive or predict what is there in the mind of the higher mind. So if we do not accept the laws of nature, if you do not accept laws of nature with respect to causation, then there is always be a problem of prediction.
Her sound is not audible.
Now I think it is audible. Sorry for the
Yes.
constant. So please use this name of Karl Popper. He has written a book named Logic of Scientific Discovery. He criticizes David Hume by saying that Hume's view on causation undermines scientific inquiry. If we accept the view of Hume, it will undermine scientific inquiry, because scientific inquiry will suppose there is a cause and effect relationship. Entire physics is based on causation. So entire physics will be demolished if you reject causation, that there is no necessity. If laws of nature change, then there is no point of studying the laws of nature. If they are subject to change, then there is no point of studying that. So scientific inquiry will be undermined, says Karl Popper. There is no proof of causal necessity, says Kant. Challenges reliability of knowledge. Again, Kant says that if we do not believe in causation, if you have a skeptical view on causation, then reliability of knowledge will be under threat. Then comes the problem of personal identity. This is our last topic for today. Personal identity. So Locke has explained personal identity on the basis of memory theory. He says that memory continuity will prove our identity. In the book Essay Concerning Human Understanding, what did he say? He says that personal experiences shape our identity. There is a continuity of memory which ensures our identity. We consciously recollect our past experiences. That's why we remember who we are. A person, the problem of personal identity is that how do I know that you are the same person? You are the same person.
Sir, it got stuck. Sir, you're on mute.
Now I'm audible to you.
Yes, sir.
Problem of personal identity is that how do we recognize that the person that we are meeting after some years is the same person that we met few years back? So those who believe in self, those who believe in soul, they don't have this problem. They will say that since self is constant, only body changes, so identity is maintained in some way or the other. But for empiricists, this is a problem. Although your Locke believes in self, but he does not explain the concept of personal identity with the idea of self. He explains the concept of personal identity with the help of memory theory. Please remember this. Do not mention that since Locke believes in self, so he believes he could prove personal identity. No. Memory theory comes into picture. Then, can anyone tell me what was the view of Berkeley? Berkeley with respect to personal identity. I have not included it because I want you to say what was his view on self and personal identity. तो बता सकते हैं? बर्गले क्या कहते थे सेल्फ के ऊपर, पर्सनल आइडेंटिटी के ऊपर?
Maybe how we are perceived by the higher mind, God.
But he believed in self, na? Berkeley?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He says that I am intuitively aware of my own existence. But he believes that the personal identity is preserved through higher mind. You are correct. Personal identity is preserved by higher mind.
Sir, again it got stuck.
ठीक है, let me not share the screen now. Screen share करने का वैसे शायद प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, तो मैं अभी बोल के बता देता हूँ आपको. You have the PDF ना? So let me just see that PDF. So Berkeley का हमने बताया that he accepted personal identity on the basis of the higher mind, that continuity is maintained in the mind of God, in the super mind, the God's mind. So that's why we preserve our personal identity is preserved. This Berkeley says. So what would be the criticism of Berkeley? बहुत आसान criticism होगा Berkeley का, if you can say.
Sir, who will perceive higher mind then?
How can you prove higher mind from experience? If you are an empiricist, then you cannot say that there is a higher mind. Higher mind cannot be perceived. right? So that is a valid criticism. There is not much of a dwelling by this Berkeley on the concept of personal identity, but this one is mentioned in some websites that he believes in the personal identity on the basis of the higher mind, the mind of God, that God preserves the continuity. God's mind maintains the continuity. उसके बाद आता है हमारे सॉरी ये डेविड ह्यूम. David Hume says about the bundle theory of self, there is no permanent self. Self is just bundle of perception. Book Treatise of Human Nature. Self is collection of impression. Identity changes with experiences. Perception is linked by relations. Then what would be the criticisms? Inconsistent identity, problem of inconsistent identity over time. यहाँ पे ये प्लीज यूज करना डिफरेंशिएटेड कंटेंट के रूप में बटलर का द एनालॉजी ऑफ रिलीजन, दैट इट विल लीड टू इनकंसिस्टेंट आइडेंटिटी ओवर टाइम. ये डिफरेंशिएटेड कंटेंट है इधर. इग्नोर्स डीपर सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ, सेज रीड. कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट्स कॉमन सेंस व्यू ऑफ सेल्फ, सेज रीड. एंड इफ यू कैन टेल मी व्हाट कांट सेड. मैंने बताया भी था आपको. एक तो बटलर का आपने दे देना है इसका आर्ग्यूमेंट विच विल बी यूनिक. ऑल्सो गिव द आर्ग्यूमेंट ऑफ कांट. कांट वही हमारा ना सिंथेटिक यूनिटी, द यूनिटी ऑफ सेल्फ, the unity of experiences presupposes unity of self. So if you do not believe in the unity of self, then you cannot say that whatever you are perceiving is a unified experience. Also, belief in self is important. For Kant, he has said that immortality of self, etc., are postulates of morality. So if there is a comparison, you can mention that point also. Khair, please mention inconsistent identity over time by Butler. This is not mentioned in the books. So now see the conclusion part. I'm hoping that my screen is visible now, and
Sir, you are on mute.
Now you see I was audible last till the last point, na? The contradicts common sense view of self.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now see what could be the conclusion. If there is a question on epistemology of Locke, you can conclude like this. If there is a 15 or 20 mark question, you can conclude like this. That in essay concerning human understanding, Locke argued against innate ideas, positing that mind is a blank slate. All knowledge, according to Locke, is derived from sensory experience. The approach challenged the rationalist notion and underscored the importance of empirical evidence in the acquisition of knowledge. अगर 20 marker 15 marker आता है तो you can mention if 20 marker 15 marker आता है on the epistemology, you can mention this as your conclusion. If there is a question on metaphysics, then you can mention this wala part, that is distinction between primary and secondary quality of objects who are significant. Primary secondary quality में भी question आता है तो you can mention this. Significant, although it had some problems. Primary qualities such as shape, motion exist independently of the perception. Finally, this differentiation helped shape subsequent discussion on the nature of reality and perception. Whenever you mention a conclusive line like this, na, ki the differentiation helped shape subsequent discussion on the nature of reality and perception, it will add that X factor to your answer, because you have told the examiner that I know that subsequent debates were shaped by how Locke had differentiated between primary and secondary quality. The distinction between primary and secondary quality has been included in our syllabus not because Locke did it very well, but only because his distinction made a subsequent impact in the later philosophical debate. So we should be mindful of that thing and we should explicitly mention that thing in our answer. Then if there is a question on personal identity, अगर वापस से आता है तो you can talk about the memory theory, that there is continuity of consciousness and memory, so we can prove the existence in the personal identity. So psychological continuity is there. He has emphasized the psychological continuity over physical continuity, because physically we are changing, influencing later debates on the nature of self and identity. ये भी बहुत अच्छा कंक्लूजन होगा कि बाद में जो साइकोलॉजिकल कंटिन्यूटी की बात करी, तो इट हैज आल्सो इंपैक्टेड हाउ योर डेविड ह्यूम address the problem of personal identity. Then you can mention the significance. You can see it here. If there is a question on Berkeley's epistemology, mention S.S. Percipi, that this radical form of empiricism rejected existence of matter independent of the perception. If there is a question on metaphysics, say that he denied the existence of material substance, and this view challenged the materialist assumption of contemporaries and predecessors. Please use the ready-made templates in your answers whenever there is a 15-20 marker question. इससे छोटा क्वेश्चन है तो you can conclude very short. I'm not talking about the 10 markers. If there is a question on causation and reality, you can conclude like this. The theological underpinning of his philosophy provided a way to address apparent stability of the world without recourse to material substance. This was a contribution in some way. Then David Hume, epistemology, impression and ideas, causation. You can also talk about the constant conjunction wala part, and also that this skepticism about causality undermined the rationalist and empiricist assumption about the predictability and order of the universe, suggesting that our belief in causation is a habit of thought rather than rationally justified belief. Or you can also say that this also aroused Kant of his dogmatic slumber. From his dogmatic slumber. So David Hume's views on causality, personal identity, all of that aroused Kant from his dogmatic slumber. Personal identity, your bundle theory. It also challenged the traditional notion of stable, enduring identity, influenced later existential and phenomenal. This is very important because phenomenological approaches to self was also influenced by how Hume dealt with the problem of personal identity. I will explain this concept better when we get to Husserl, and also the Sartre and your Heidegger, who were also phenomenologists in some sense. So I will delve on this point there. So plus you can mention this कि जब भी ये personal identity का अब डेविड ह्यूम पे आ जाए तो expected question है, it can be asked now. Please mention this. Then you can give the significance of David Hume if needed. That Immanuel Kant का response was very, very important significance. ठीक है? Did you get it?
Yes, sir.
So there was a lot of content today because I did three philosophers in just 7 pages. So there was a lot of keywords and concepts. But I think if you have read the philosophers before, तो इतना प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं आया होगा ना. कंसेप्चुअल तो आपको पता होगा, बस थोड़े पॉइंट्स नहीं होंगे आप लोगों के लिए.
हाँ सर, क्रिटिसिज्म और बुक्स वगैरह और थोड़ा बहुत डिफरेंट, मतलब
जो मैंने आपको बोला, बिल्कुल जो पॉइंट्स मैंने बताया ना, जैसे कि बर्कले है तो जॉनसन आना चाहिए, थॉमस रीड का आना चाहिए, क्योंकि ये ऑफिशियल टेक्स्ट बुक्स में मेंशन्ड है ये सब चीजें. तो ये आएंगी तो लगेगा कि हाँ आपने डीप रीडिंग की है. आपको रीडिंग करने की जरूरत नहीं है, आपको मिल गया है मसाला, आपको इस मसाले को इस्तेमाल करना है बस. अब हम कल आपको आपके लिए फ्री है डे, कल आप रिवाइज करो इसको पूरे को, जो हमने अभी तक प्लेटो और अरिस्टोटल किया है, रैशनलिज्म किया है, एम्पिरिसिज्म आज कर लिया. प्लीज रिवाइज देम, वॉच द लेक्चर वीडियोस इफ नीडेड. ठीक है? ऑन संडे
वीडियोस अभी आपने नहीं शेयर किया है ना?
क्या चीज?
इसके लेक्चर्स अभी आपने नहीं शेयर किया ना ग्रुप में? लेक्चर वीडियोस?
आज का
कल का? हाँ सर।
नहीं, कल का मैंने शेयर कर दिया था। कल
अच्छा
का
अच्छा, ठीक है।
इसी कल का शेयर कर दिया था, आज का भी शेयर हो जाएगा। और हमारा इंटेंसिव राइटिंग होगा संडे को। देखो, मैं आप लोगों से पहले बात कर लेता हूँ इस बारे में। हाउ मेनी क्वेश्चन शुड आई गिव? 10 क्वेश्चंस और 5 क्वेश्चंस? क्योंकि फर्स्ट टाइम मैं इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ आप लोगों से, उसके बाद नहीं
You
पूछूंगा।
can give 10 questions and we can if possible we will write every question. Otherwise हम मतलब जो हमें suitable लगेगा जितना हम कर पाएंगे, because
अच्छा,
क्वेश्चन सर आप इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस दे सकते रहेंगे ना।
हाँ, मैं पीवाईक्यू में से ही दूंगा ज्यादा।
ओके सर।
पीवाईक्यू में से ही दूंगा क्वेश्चंस तो।
ओके।
हाँ, और भी कोई बोल रहा था?
नहीं सर, ठीक है।
10 questions are fine, sir. We'll try to write all the questions. But if you give less questions, so you might miss out some important ones.
Okay, I'll give 10 questions then. Ankush, you are also speaking something? You are also saying something?
नहीं सर, 10 questions are okay.
10 questions are okay, na? So some 10
Yes, sir.
markers, some 15 markers, and some 20 markers. More
Yes, sir.
10 markers, less 15 marker, and lesser 20 markers. So पहले ज्यादा 10 marker देंगे, so that एक बार writing हो जाए। ठीक है? अगर कोई भी इशू आता है, अगर कोई भी इशू आता है, अभी आप रिवीजन करोगे, so please post your query in the group or you can text me also, but revise it properly because we have to focus on जो भी हमने कंटेंट दिया ना अभी तक आपको, it has to come on the paper, otherwise it is of no use. ठीक है? So very important that everything that we read should come on paper. So we will focus on that, how it comes on paper on Sunday. So all the best to you. Please revise whatever we have read. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you sir. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.